The acceptance letter lay in pieces on our kitchen floor, torn fragments of my future scattered like confetti at a funeral. My brother Marcus stood over them, his face twisted with a rage I'd seen too many times before. "You don't deserve Stanford," he spat, grinding a piece of the letter under his heel. "You must have cheated. There's no way you got in when I did it. I'm Alexandra Mitchell, and at 18, I just watched my older brother destroy the one thing I'd worked my entire life for." My hands shook as I knelt to gather the torn pieces of my acceptance letter, each scrap representing years of late-night study sessions, perfect test scores, and sacrifice social events. "Marcus, please," I whispered, trying to piece together the torn letterhead. "This was my only copy." "Good," he sneered. "Now you can't prove anything. Nobody will believe you got in anyway." Mom walked in just then, her eyes widening at the scene before her. Marcus immediately switched his expression, adopting the innocent look he perfected over years of getting away with everything. "Alex is lying about getting into Stanford," he said quickly, his voice smooth as honey. "She made a fake acceptance letter to make me look bad." I stared at him in disbelief. "Mom, that's not true. I really got in. I worked so hard for this." "Alexandra," Mom cut me off, her voice tired. "Why would you do something like this? You know how sensitive Marcus is about Stanford rejecting him." My throat tightened. Of course she'd take his side. She always did. Marcus was her golden child, the star athlete who could do no wrong. Even when he'd sabotaged my science fair project in junior year, she called it sibling rivalry and told me to be more understanding. "But Mom, I really did get in." I protested, holding up the torn pieces. "Look at the watermark, the official seal." "Enough," Marcus shouted, sweeping the pieces from my hands. "Stop trying to overshadow me for once in your life." Mom placed a hand on his shoulder, soothing him like he was the victim. "Honey, go calm down. I'll handle this." After he stormed out, Mom turned to me with that look I knew too well, disappointment mixed with exasperation. "Alexandra, you need to let this go. Your brother is going through a hard time. His rejection from Stanford hit him hard. So I'm supposed to hide my acceptance? Pretend I didn't get in because his ego can't handle it?" My voice cracked with emotion. "Family comes first," she said firmly. "Marcus needs our support right now. He's always been sensitive about academics, you know that." I laughed bitterly. "Sensitive? He's been sabotaging me since elementary school. Remember when he accidentally deleted my history presentation, or when he told everyone I cheated on the SAT because I scored higher than him?" Mom waved her hand dismissively. "You're being dramatic. Marcus would never intentionally hurt you. But he had, countless times, and now he destroyed the physical proof of my greatest achievement." What I hadn't told them was that I'd already emailed my acceptance confirmation to Stanford 2 days ago. The torn letter was just for our family announcement, an announcement that had gone horribly wrong. That evening, I sat in my room, carefully taping together the pieces of my acceptance letter. My phone buzzed with a text from my best friend Emma. "Did you tell them? How did it go?" I sent her a photo of the taped-together letter. Her response was immediate. "Your brother is a psycho. You need to tell the dean what happened." I hesitated. The thought had crossed my mind, but the consequences. Marcus was starting at Berkeley in the fall. If I reported this, it could affect his college career too. Another text from Emma. "Stop protecting him. He doesn't deserve it." She was right. For years, I'd stayed quiet about Marcus's behavior, always taking the high road, always being the understanding sister. But this time was different. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about every achievement he tried to diminish, every success he'd attempted to steal. With trembling fingers, I opened my email and began composing a message to Dean Harrison at Stanford. I attached photos of the torn letter and started typing my story. Not just about today, but about the years of academic sabotage, the constant undermining, the way my family enabled his behavior. Just as I was about to hit send, Mom knocked on my door. "Alexandra? Marcus feels terrible about what happened. He wants to apologize." I looked at my phone, at Emma's last text. "Don't let them manipulate you again." "Tell him I'm busy," I called back, my finger hovering over the send button. "Don't be difficult," Mom sighed. "He's your brother. Family forgives." I closed my eyes, remembering every time I'd forgiven, every time I'd stayed quiet, every achievement I'd downplayed to protect Marcus's fragile ego. Not this time. I hit send. The next morning, my email notification chimed during breakfast. Dean Harrison's name appeared on my screen, making my heart skip a beat. Marcus glanced up from his phone, his eyes narrowing at my expression. "What's that?" "Another fake acceptance letter," he sneered. I ignored him, opening the email with trembling fingers. "Dear Ms. Mitchell, your email deeply concerns me. I would like to schedule a video call with you today at 2 p.m. to discuss this matter. This type of behavior has no place in our academic community. Best regards, Dean Harrison." Mom noticed my pale face. "Alexandra? What's wrong?" Before I could respond, Marcus snatched my phone. His face transformed from smug to horrified as he read the email. "You little snake," he shouted. "You reported me?" "Marcus, give her phone back." Dad finally spoke up from behind his newspaper. For once, he seemed to be paying attention to our drama. "She emailed Stanford about yesterday." Marcus's voice cracked. "She's trying to ruin my life." Mom rushed to his side, but Dad's response surprised everyone. "Like you tried to ruin hers by destroying her acceptance letter?" The kitchen fell silent. Mom's mouth dropped open, and Marcus stepped back, looking betrayed. You saw that?" Marcus stammered. Dad folded his newspaper carefully. "I saw everything from my study. I've seen a lot of things over the years, Marcus. I just foolishly thought you'd grow out of it." "Robert," Mom protested, "you know how hard Marcus works." "No, Linda," Dad cut her off. "Our son doesn't work hard. He tears others down when they outshine him, and we've enabled it for far too long." I sat there, stunned. After years of silence, Dad was finally acknowledging the truth. "The video call is happening," I said firmly, "and I'm not lying for you this time, Marcus." The hours until 2 p.m. crawled by. I sat in Dad's study, waiting for the call. To my surprise, both my parents insisted on being present. Marcus locked himself in his room, sending me threatening texts about ruining the family. Dean Harrison's face appeared on screen precisely at 2 p.m. She was a stern-looking woman with kind eyes. "Ms. Mitchell, I've reviewed the evidence you sent. But there's something you should know." She paused, her expression grave. "Your brother Marcus applied to Stanford as well." "Yes, he was rejected," I said, confused. "No, Ms. Mitchell, he was accepted." The room fell silent. Mom gasped. "He received his acceptance letter 3 weeks ago. He chose to decline our offer and accept Berkeley's instead." My mind spun. Marcus had gotten into Stanford? Then why? Dean Harrison continued. "What concerns me more is that upon investigating, we found some irregularities with his application. Specifically, his essay about overcoming academic challenges was plagiarized." Dad leaned forward. "What?" "We normally would have rescinded his acceptance upon discovering this, but since he'd already declined, we simply noted it in his file." She looked directly at me. "However, his actions toward you, Ms. Mitchell, demonstrate a pattern of academic dishonesty that we feel Berkeley should be aware of." My stomach dropped. As much as Marcus had hurt me, I never wanted to destroy his future. "Please," Mom interrupted, tears in her eyes. "There must be something we can do." Dean Harrison's expression softened slightly. "We take these matters very seriously. However," she paused, "if Marcus agrees to certain conditions, including mandatory counseling and an ethics course before starting college, we might not need to inform Berkeley." Dad spoke up, his voice firm. "He'll do it. All of it." Just then, we heard a thud behind us. Marcus stood in the doorway, his face ashen. He must have been listening from outside. "You got into Stanford," I whispered. His shoulders slumped. I couldn't go there and watch you succeed. Everyone would compare us. They'd see that you're," he swallowed hard, "better than me." For the first time, I saw my brother without his mask of superiority. He looked small, scared, and desperately insecure. Dean Harrison cleared her throat. "Mr. Mitchell, would you like to join this conversation?" Marcus stepped forward, and for the next hour, we had the most honest family discussion of our lives. He admitted to years of sabotaging my achievements, driven by a deep-seated fear of being overshadowed. Mom finally confronted her role in enabling his behavior, and Dad acknowledged how his silence had hurt both his children. As the call ended, Dean Harrison gave us all a lot to think about. "Success isn't a limited resource," she said. "There's room for both Mitchell siblings to shine." Looking at Marcus's humbled expression, I realized this was a turning point. The question was, would this revelation lead to real change, or was it just another performance from my brother? The weeks following the video call brought changes I never expected. Marcus started his mandatory counseling sessions, and slowly, our family's dynamic began to shift. But trust isn't rebuilt overnight, and old habits die hard. One evening, I found Marcus sitting alone in the kitchen, staring at his laptop. On the screen was his plagiarized Stanford essay alongside the original source he'd stolen it from. "I didn't even need to do it," he said without looking up. "I had the grades, the extracurriculars, but I was so scared of not being perfect." I sat down across from him, keeping a careful distance. Years of his sabotage had taught me to be wary. "Why did you really turn down Stanford?" He closed his laptop, finally meeting my eyes. "Because I knew that if we both went there, everyone would see the truth. You're not just smart, Alex. You work harder, you're more genuine, and people naturally like you. I've always been." He paused, the fake one. It was surreal hearing these words from my brother, who'd spent years tormenting me. His counselor had suggested family sessions, and reluctantly, I'd agreed to attend one with him next week. Meanwhile, Stanford had become more than just my dream school. Dean Harrison took a special interest in my case, offering me a spot in their prestigious leadership mentorship program, an opportunity that wouldn't have come about if I hadn't stood up to Marcus. "I start the ethics course next week," Marcus said, breaking the silence. "Berkeley agreed to let me take it online before freshman year starts." Mom walked in then, carrying groceries. She changed too, no longer jumping to Marcus's defense at every turn. "I signed up for family counseling," she announced, setting down the bags. "Your father's coming too." The doorbell rang, and I heard Dad greeting someone. To our surprise, Emma walked into the kitchen. Marcus immediately tensed. She knew all about his past behavior. "I came to drop off the study group notes," Emma said, pointedly ignoring Marcus. She'd been my fiercest defender over the years, and forgiveness wasn't coming easily to her. "Actually," Marcus spoke up, "I want to say something to Emma too." He took a deep breath. "I'm sorry for telling everyone you cheated on the debate team last year. I was the one who accessed the opposing team's arguments early and used them." Emma's jaw dropped. The debate scandal had almost cost her team captain position. "You're admitting this now?" "I'm admitting everything now," Marcus replied. "The counselor says I can't move forward without owning my past actions." Emma looked at me, then back at Marcus. "Well, it's a start," she said carefully, "but actions speak louder than words." She was right. Over the next month, Marcus's actions began backing up his words. He wrote formal apologies to everyone he'd wronged. He confessed to teachers about past academic dishonesty. It was painful watching my brother dismantle his carefully constructed image, but there was also something admirable about it. The real test came during my Stanford orientation weekend. I'd been selected to give a speech as part of the leadership program, and to my shock, Marcus asked to attend. "You don't have to come," I said, remembering all the times he tried to overshadow my moments. "I want to," he insisted, "not to compete or sabotage. I want to see my sister shine." The day of the orientation, I stood at the podium, looking out at the crowd. There was Dean Harrison, who'd helped turn my brother's attack into an opportunity. There were my parents, finally united in supporting both their children equally. And there was Marcus, sitting quietly in the back, simply listening. My speech was about resilience and authenticity, about standing up for yourself while leaving room for others to grow. As I spoke, I saw Marcus wipe his eyes. Afterward, Dean Harrison approached our family. "Mr. Mitchell," she addressed Marcus, "your progress reports from the ethics course and counseling are impressive. Perhaps in the future, if you maintain this growth, transfer applications could be considered." Marcus shook his head. "Thank you, but no. Berkeley is where I need to be. It's time for me to build my own path, not chase someone else's." That's when I knew my brother was really changing. The old Marcus would have jumped at the chance to follow me to Stanford to compete and compare. This Marcus was finally finding his own way. Later that night, he handed me an envelope. Inside was a new copy of my original acceptance letter, professionally restored. "I can't fix everything I broke," he said quietly, "but I can try to repair what I can." It wasn't a perfect ending. Real life rarely has those. Trust would take time to rebuild, and old insecurities wouldn't vanish overnight. But as I looked at my restored acceptance letter, I realized something profound. Sometimes standing up for yourself doesn't just change your life. It can help others find their way too. Hi, I'm Diana. My daughter's 16th birthday was supposed to be magical, a day she'd remember forever. And it was, but not for the reasons I'd hoped. My sister-in-law, Amanda, hijacked the entire celebration to stage her surprise engagement, and looking back, I can't believe I didn't see it coming. 3 months before the party, Amanda suddenly became overly enthusiastic about helping plan Lily's Sweet 16. At the time, I thought it was a kind gesture. Being a single mom, I'd saved for years to make this day special, and Lily had dreamed of a garden-themed party with fairy lights, delicate flower arrangements, and an intimate guest list of 50. She spent hours on Pinterest, her blue eyes shining as she showed me ideas. "Mom, look at these light-up butterflies." She'd squeal, her phone glowing with images of magical, whimsical touches. But Amanda had other ideas. "Let me help," she said with a saccharine smile, flipping her perfectly styled blonde hair. "I know the best event planners in the city." At first, I was hesitant, but when Amanda insisted and my brother Mark offered to help with costs, I reluctantly agreed. That was my first mistake. Slowly but surely, Lily's simple, personal celebration morphed into an over-the-top extravaganza. The guest list ballooned to over 200 people. Pastel colors became gold and white. "More elegant," Amanda said. Lily's vision was slipping away, and I was too blindsided to stop it. One night, Lily pulled me aside, her voice trembling. "Mom, this doesn't feel like my party anymore." "I know, sweetheart," I said, guilt weighing heavy on my chest. I tried to stand my ground. "Amanda, I appreciate your input, but this is Lily's day. She should have the party she wants." Amanda's sugary tone turned icy. "Diana, you've never planned anything like this. Trust me, I know what I'm doing. Besides, Mark and I are footing part of the bill, so we should have some say." I should have said no right then. Instead, I stayed silent, thinking I was keeping the peace. But Amanda's real plan didn't become clear until the day of the party. The venue was unrecognizable. Instead of a charming garden with fairy lights, there were champagne fountains, a massive dance floor, and white roses everywhere. Lily's sweet, simple birthday cake had been replaced with a towering 5-tier monstrosity covered in gold leaf. "Mom," Lily whispered, clutching my hand. "This isn't my party." Before I could respond, Amanda swept in, wearing a flowing white dress, more suited for a bride than a guest. She beamed as if she were the star of the show. "Everything is perfect," she declared. I assumed she meant Lily's big moment. I was wrong. Halfway through the party, Amanda clinked her glass, silencing the music. "Everyone, if I could have your attention," she announced, stepping into the spotlight meant for Lily's first dance with her dad. My stomach sank. "I have a special announcement," Amanda gushed, pulling Mark to her side. Mark proposed, and I said yes. She held up her hand, the oversized diamond glittering under the lights. The crowd erupted in cheers as photographers, whom I hadn't hired, materialized out of nowhere. It wasn't a party for my daughter. It was Amanda's engagement photo shoot. I scanned the room, but Lily was gone. I found her outside, sitting on a bench surrounded by the roses she dreamed of as her backdrop. Her shoulders shook with silent sobs. "She ruined everything," Lily choked out, her makeup streaked with tears. I wrapped my arms around her, fury boiling in my chest. "I'm so sorry, baby. This was supposed to be your day." "Did you see the photographers?" Lily sniffled. "Amanda planned all this for her stupid magazine feature. She never cared about me." That's when it all clicked. The gold and white, the influencers, the over-the-top decor. Amanda had stolen Lily's moment for her own selfish gain. When we returned, Amanda was holding court by the cake, basking in attention. "Diana," she called, waving me over. "Where's Lily? The photographer needs family shots." Something inside me snapped. No more photos. No more announcements. This is my daughter's birthday, not your engagement shoot. The room went silent. Amanda's perfect smile faltered. "Don't be ridiculous, Diana. This is a celebration for everyone." "No," I said, my voice steady with anger. "This was supposed to be Lily's day, and you turned it into a circus." Guests began murmuring, sensing the tension. Amanda's mask of composure cracked. "You're just jealous," she hissed, her voice low. "Jealous because Mark found someone who knows how to throw a real event, unlike you." I stared her down, a cold smile forming. "Jealous? No, Amanda. I'm furious. Furious that you thought you could hijack my daughter's birthday for your vanity. Get out. Now." The guests left quickly, the party ending in a flurry of whispers. Amanda's carefully crafted image shattered, and Mark's pleas for peace fell on deaf ears. When I got home, Lily was curled up on the couch. I hugged her tightly, promising her we'd create a memory worth keeping, a real celebration just for her. As for Amanda, she'd underestimated me. Nobody messes with my daughter and gets away with it. This wasn't the end. Not by a long shot. The next morning, my phone buzzed nonstop, flooded with notifications. Amanda had plastered social media with photos from Lily's party. Except, to her, it wasn't Lily's party. It was her engagement celebration. She tagged herself in every shot, using captions like "best surprise engagement ever" and "family moments to remember." There wasn't a single mention of Lily, let alone her sweet 16. Lily wouldn't come out of her room. Her text said it all. Everyone at school saw Amanda's post. They're calling me the girl who got upstaged by her own aunt. I can't face them. That was the breaking point. I called in sick to work and got to it. First, I contacted the venue, whose manager was furious to learn Amanda had smuggled in unauthorized photographers and violated several contract terms. Then, I reached out to the editor of the magazine Amanda was hoping to get into. "Ms. Walker," the editor said briskly, "we understood this was an engagement party. Our publication does not condone hijacking someone else's event for personal publicity." "Oh, it wasn't just any event," I replied, forwarding Amanda's emails detailing her plan to elevate a teen birthday party into her dream engagement spectacle. "It was my 16-year-old daughter's birthday." The editor's silence spoke volumes. "Finally," she said, "we'll be pulling the feature immediately." But I wasn't finished. Amanda loved to flaunt her connections, most of which stemmed from her event planning business, a business she'd built by stealing credit for others' work. It didn't take much to find a trail of complaints. She hijacked my daughter's wedding, one woman shared. Showed up in a white dress, made a speech about her promotion, then used our wedding photos in her portfolio without permission. The stories poured in, each more damning than the last. Amanda's reputation wasn't just tarnished, it was shattered. By midday, my phone lit up with calls. I ignored Mark, but when Amanda's name appeared, I answered. "What did you do?" she hissed. "The magazine pulled my feature. My Instagram posts are getting reported." "Harassment, huh?" I said, feigning surprise. "You mean like stealing a teenager's party for clout, posting photos of a minor without consent?" "It was a family celebration," she screeched. "I made it better. That sad little party was embarrassing." "Thanks for confirming that," I replied sweetly. "My lawyer will appreciate it." She launched into threats. She'd ruin me. She'd turn Mark against me. She'd make sure Lily never had another party in this town. But every word only dug her deeper. When Mark showed up later, he looked distraught. "Deanna, please. Amanda's devastated. She spent so much money." Money she stole from Lily's party budget. I cut in. She canceled Lily's original vendors and pocketed the refunds. "I have proof." His face crumbled as I showed him receipts and emails. "She wouldn't." "She did," I said, handing over credit card statements showing Amanda had maxed out his cards for her business expenses. Designer clothes, luxury trips, staged photo shoots, it was all there. "She promised it'd pay off with a magazine feature," he whispered. "Well, now she'll need a new plan." By evening, Amanda's story was unraveling. A local blog had leaked her emails, exposing her manipulative tactics. Furious clients began canceling contracts. Her carefully curated image was crumbling post by post. Desperate, Amanda went live on Instagram, sobbing about how she was being attacked by her own family and had only wanted to create a special memory. Her followers rallied to her defense, sending me hate messages. But Amanda had underestimated us. "Mom?" Lily appeared at my door, phone in hand. "It's time." She'd been quietly documenting everything, every cruel remark, every forced change, every stolen moment. Together, we crafted a post that laid out the facts. Amanda's messages, venue footage, and financial records. No drama, just truth. "Are you sure?" I asked as Lily hovered over the post button. "She took my party," Lily said firmly. "She doesn't get to take my voice too." The post went live at midnight. By morning, Amanda's empire had collapsed. Clients were pulling out, her followers were abandoning her, and Mark finally saw the truth. "The engagement's off," he texted. "I'm so sorry, Diana. I should have listened." But his apology wasn't for me, it was for Lily. Amanda made one last desperate attempt, showing up uninvited. "We can fix this," she begged, clutching her designer purse. "I'll throw Lily another party, better, bigger. I'll give her credit in my posts." "No," Lily said, her voice steady. "You're not family. You never were." As Amanda drove away, I hugged my daughter tight. "I'm so proud of you." She smiled. "I learned from the best. Nobody messes with you, Mom." That weekend we threw Lily the party she deserved. Small, heartfelt, and full of love, just as she'd wanted. No photographers, no social media, just real friends and family. And as I watched Lily laugh under the twinkling fairy lights, I knew we'd won something Amanda would never understand. The kind of happiness you can't fake for the cameras. Karma might not be finished with Amanda, but as far as we were concerned, we'd already had the last laugh. The aftermath of Amanda's exposure spread like wildfire through our community, leaving her once dominant reputation in tatters. The local event planning circuit buzzed with whispers of her deception. But Amanda wasn't one to back down easily, she simply shifted her tactics. One morning, my lawyer called with surprising news. "Diana, Amanda's filed a lawsuit against you. She's claiming defamation and business interference, seeking damages for lost contracts and emotional distress." I couldn't help but laugh. Let her, we've documented everything. But Amanda wasn't done. She landed a new job at Lily's school as the event coordinator. I only found out when Lily came home in tears. "She's in charge of prom planning," Lily sobbed. She told the entire committee that students with problematic families shouldn't have leadership roles. Amanda had crossed a line, targeting my daughter's safe space. That was her fatal mistake. I called an emergency PTA meeting and showed up with a presentation detailing Amanda's history of event manipulation, financial misconduct, and self-serving schemes. Is this the person we want managing our children's events and funds? I asked the stunned parents. The school board didn't need much convincing. Her contract was terminated by the end of the day. Desperate and humiliated, Amanda made one last dramatic attempt at regaining her footing. She crashed Mark's birthday dinner at our parents' house, sporting a flashy new engagement ring, different from the last one, and clinging to our cousin Steve. "We're engaged," she declared triumphantly, clearly expecting gasps and applause. Instead, Steve looked utterly baffled. "Amanda, what are you talking about? We grabbed coffee once. That's it." The silence was deafening. Finally, my mother stood, her voice steely and firm. "Amanda, enough. You're not welcome in this family anymore." That was the last we saw of her. From what I've heard, Amanda moved out of state, trying to rebuild her event planning business. But the internet has a long memory, and her schemes have become a cautionary tale in the industry. As for Lily, she's planning her college graduation party now. Small, intimate, and entirely her own. No social media, no drama, just family and friends who love her for who she is. "Mom," she said recently, showing me her private Instagram account with a small circle of trusted followers, "I'm so glad we kept my real sweet 16 off the internet. Some memories are too special to share." I hugged her, overwhelmed with pride. Amanda may have tried to steal her moment, but in the end, she only showed us what true family is and what it isn't. Mark eventually found someone genuine, a woman who loves our family's quiet gatherings and values moments for what they are, not for how they'll look online. And as for me, I've learned that the most precious moments are the ones we protect fiercely, keeping them safe from those who don't deserve to be part of them. The end. So, what would you do if someone hijacked your child's special day? Let me know your thoughts below. My name is Sarah, and 5 years ago, I made the best decision of my life. I adopted my daughter, Lily. She was 6, with big brown eyes and a shy smile that could melt the coldest heart. The moment I saw her at the adoption center, I knew she was meant to be mine. "Are you sure about this?" my mother asked when I told her my plans. "You're only 30. You've got time to find someone and have your own kids." But I didn't want to wait. I had a fulfilling career as a pediatric nurse, a cozy home, and so much love to give. I didn't need a partner to be a great mom. The first few months with Lily were challenging but beautiful. She was quiet at first, her big eyes always observing. Slowly, her personality began to shine. I discovered her love for drawing. She could spend hours sketching butterflies and rainbows. She had a tender heart too, saving half her sandwich every day to feed the backyard birds. My family needed time to adjust. Most of them came around eventually. My parents adored Lily's gentle nature, and my younger brother, Mike, became her favorite uncle with his endless jokes and piggyback rides. But my older brother James, his wife Rachel, and their kids, Emma and Lucas, that's where everything changed. The first time Lily met Emma and Lucas at a family Christmas gathering, I had high hopes. Emma, 7, was just a year older than Lily, and Lucas was 5. I imagined them becoming close, giving Lily the siblings she'd never had. But Rachel's reaction crushed that dream instantly. "Oh," she said, looking Lily up and down. "So this is the adopted one." The word dripped with disdain. Lily's hand tightened in mine. "This is your cousin Lily," I corrected firmly, but Rachel was already calling her kids to meet their new cousin, complete with air quotes. From then on, Emma and Lucas excluded Lily at every turn, running off when she tried to join their games, whispering and pointing during dinner. I confronted James, but he dismissed me. "Kids will be kids, Sarah. Don't overreact." Rachel was worse. "What do you expect? They're real cousins, not some stranger's unwanted child," she said within earshot of Lily. I started limiting visits, focusing on building a safe, loving environment at home. Lily began to blossom again, excelling in school, making friends, and filling our days with laughter and art. Life felt perfect. Until James and Rachel moved into our school district. "Isn't it wonderful?" my mom gushed. "Now the cousins can all go to school together." My stomach sank. Lily had finally found her footing in 3rd grade, but now Emma would be in her class, and Lucas would be just a grade below. At first, everything seemed fine. Lily came home with her usual stories and art projects. But soon she started eating less, struggling to sleep, and waking from nightmares, crying out, "Mama, don't leave me." When I asked what was wrong, she stayed silent, but I noticed her sparkle fading. It wasn't until Maria, her best friend's mom, called me that I learned the truth. "Sarah," Maria began hesitantly, "I thought you should know, Sophia came home crying today. Emma and Lucas told everyone Lily isn't really part of your family, that she's just a charity case." I felt like I'd been punched. They said that. "There's more. Emma's been spreading lies, telling kids Lily's real parents were criminals, and Lucas convinced the class not to play with her. Sophia's heartbroken, but Emma threatened her if she didn't go along." That night, as I watched Lily silently push food around her plate, I couldn't stay quiet. "Lily Flower," I said gently, using her special nickname, "is everything okay at school? You can tell me anything." Her big brown eyes brimmed with tears. "Emma says you're not my real mom. She says you'll give me back when you get tired of me, like my first parents did." I pulled her into my arms, heartbroken and furious. "Listen to me, Lily Flower. You are my real, wonderful, perfect daughter. I chose you, and I will never, ever give you up." "Promise?" she whispered. I promised with all my heart. That night, after Lily fell asleep, I tried calling James and Rachel, but neither answered. Fine. If they wouldn't face me over the phone, I'd confront them in person. The next morning, after dropping Lily off early for art club, I made a decision. This cruelty ends today. What I didn't know was that the situation was about to spiral further out of control, and a shocking revelation from the school's security cameras would tear our family apart. That morning felt endless. My hands moved through the motions of work, checking vitals, administering meds, but my mind was elsewhere, replaying Mrs. Martinez's email over and over. What had happened to Lily? What could be so serious they needed me to come in? When I arrived at Cedar Elementary, my stomach churned as I parked. Kids laughed and shouted on the playground, but all I could think about was Lily. Was she okay? My knuckles were white on the steering wheel. Then I saw Rachel's SUV pulling in. Of course, they'd been called too. Mrs. Martinez's office felt claustrophobic with the 5 of us squeezed inside. Me, Rachel, James, Mrs. Martinez, and Ms. Chen, the school counselor. The air was heavy, the tension so thick it pressed down on my chest. "Thank you for coming," Mrs. Martinez began, her tone serious. "We've called this meeting due to some troubling incidents involving your children. I believe it's best if I show you." She turned her computer screen toward us, and the room fell silent. My pulse thundered as the video began to play. Lily stood by the water fountains, clutching her books. Emma and Lucas cornered her, their faces smug. The audio was crystal clear. "You don't belong here," Emma sneered. "My mom says you're not really our cousin. You're just some random kid Aunt Sarah felt sorry for." Lucas chimed in, "Yeah, my mom says your real parents didn't even want you. That's why you got dumped." Lily shrank against the wall, her voice barely audible. "That's not true. My mama loves me." "She's not your real mama," Emma snapped. "My mom says she's just pretending, and when she has real kids, she'll give you back." My heart broke watching Lily's little shoulders hunch under the weight of their cruelty. Then Emma knocked Lily's books out of her hands and Lucas dumped water on her homework. But what made my blood run cold was the figure standing just out of sight. Rachel. She was there, watching, smirking. When Emma and Lucas finally walked off, Rachel stepped into view, her face void of concern. She didn't scold her kids. She didn't check on Lily. She simply ushered Emma and Lucas toward their classroom like nothing had happened. Mrs. Martinez paused the video. "This is just one incident," she said quietly. "There have been others, but this is particularly troubling." Ms. Chen opened a file. "Teachers and parents have reported ongoing bullying, much of it involving Emma and Lucas, and much of it appears to be influenced by adult behavior." Her eyes flicked toward Rachel. Rachel bristled. "This is ridiculous. They're just kids. Kids tease. It's normal." "Normal?" I said, my voice trembling with anger. "You stood there and let your kids humiliate mine. You encouraged them." Rachel rolled her eyes. "Oh please, this is all being blown out of proportion. Maybe if you hadn't forced Lily into a family she doesn't belong in, we wouldn't be having this conversation." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Forced? She's my daughter." "She's not really part of this family," Rachel snapped. "Blood matters, Sarah. My children know that. That's why they're confused. You've been pretending she's something she's not, and now you're upset they see through it." I stood my chair scraping loudly against the floor. "Lily is my daughter. She's more a part of this family than you'll ever be." "Enough," Mrs. Martinez interrupted, her voice sharp. "Mrs. Peterson, this behavior, both from your children and from you, is unacceptable. Emma and Lucas will be suspended for 2 weeks. Additionally, we're requiring counseling before they return. If this continues, there will be further consequences, including possible expulsion." Rachel shot to her feet. "This is absurd. You're punishing my children for speaking the truth. They've done nothing wrong." "Rachel, stop," James said softly. He was pale, his eyes glued to the paused video on the screen. I didn't know it was this bad." "Don't you dare side with her," Rachel hissed, jabbing a finger in my direction. "This is her fault. She brought that girl into our family. She's the problem." "No," James said, his voice firmer now. "The problem is us. What we've let happen." Mrs. Martinez continued, "We're also required to report this to family services. This type of targeted harassment, especially toward an adopted child, raises serious concerns." Rachel's face flushed an angry red. "James, are you hearing this? They're treating us like criminals." But James didn't respond. He just shook his head, looking defeated. As the meeting ended, Rachel stormed out, dragging James with her. I followed a few steps behind, my heart heavy. Passing her SUV, I heard her voice through the open window. "This isn't fair," she wailed. "She's not even real family. My kids shouldn't have to compete with some charity case." James said something I couldn't hear, but it didn't matter. I'd heard enough. That night, as I sat by Lily's bed, watching her sleep, I made a promise to myself. This wasn't over. Not even close. Rachel wanted to pretend Lily didn't belong. Fine. I'd show her exactly how wrong she was. Because what Rachel didn't know was that this wasn't the only recording. And what came next would ensure she never hurt my daughter again. That evening, I picked Lily up from Maria's house, where she'd spent the afternoon playing with Sophia. The moment she saw me, she ran into my arms, her laughter bubbling up like music. "Can Sophia come over tomorrow, Ma? Her mom says it's okay," she asked, her eyes bright with hope. For a moment, I let myself savor the sight of her happiness, silently thanking Maria and Sophia for being the safe harbor my daughter needed. "Of course, baby," I said with a smile. "But first, we need to talk about something important." At home, I sat Lily down on the couch, holding her small hands in mine. I explained as gently as I could about the video from school and the consequences Emma and Lucas would face. They won't be in school for a while, I said. They're going to learn why what they did was wrong. Lily's expression grew serious. After a pause, she looked up at me and asked in a small, uncertain voice, "Is it because I'm adopted? Is that why they don't want me in the family?" The words hit me like a punch to the chest. I swallowed hard, then reached for my phone and opened a video I'd taken years ago, right after the adoption was finalized. It showed 6-year-old Lily sitting in my lap as I read her favorite story. Her laughter was infectious, her smile brighter than the sun. "See this?" I said, holding the phone where she could see it. "This was the day you became mine forever. Not because I had to, but because I chose to. Because I loved you the moment I saw you, and I've loved you more every day since." She leaned into me, watching the video with wide eyes. "We look happy," she whispered. "We are happy," I said firmly, "and we don't need anyone else's approval to be a family." The next morning, my mother called again, insisting on a family dinner. This time, I agreed, but only because I had something they all needed to see. That evening, we gathered at my parents' house. Rachel sat with her children, playing the victim, while James avoided my gaze, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. My parents kept trying to mediate, urging us to move past this misunderstanding. Before anyone could launch into their rehearsed speeches about family unity, I stood up and connected my phone to the TV. "Since we're all here to talk about family," I said, my voice steady, "let's watch something that sheds some light on what that word really means." The video began playing, footage from my home security camera, taken 3 months ago. It showed Rachel arriving at my house when she knew I was at work. She let herself in with the spare key she claimed was for emergencies. In the video, she walked through the house with Lily, pointing at the photos on the walls. "See these?" Rachel's voice came through the speakers, cold and cutting. "These aren't your real family photos. Your real parents didn't want you. Aunt Sarah just felt sorry for you, but one day she'll have her own kids, and then where will you be?" The room fell silent, except for the sound of Rachel's voice. I played more clips, Rachel coaching her children to exclude Lily, Rachel making cruel remarks at family gatherings, Rachel systematically trying to convince my daughter that she didn't belong. When the final video ended, I turned to face the room. "I'm moving," I announced. "I've accepted a position at Children's Hospital in Denver. Lily and I leave next month." "You can't just take her away from her family," my mother protested. "Family?" I said, my voice sharp with disbelief. "You all sat here and let Rachel and her kids torment my daughter. You made excuses, called it a misunderstanding. Well, guess what? We don't need this kind of family." I turned to Rachel, who was pale and trembling. "I've sent copies of these videos to the school board and my lawyer. If you ever come near my daughter again, if you ever so much as say her name, I will make sure everyone knows exactly who you are." We left that night and didn't look back. 6 months later, Lily and I were thriving in Denver. She loved her new school, where nobody questioned whether she was really my daughter. She joined the art club, made friends who adored her, and rediscovered her confidence. One afternoon, she came home beaming with excitement. "We're doing a family tree project at school," she announced, spreading paper across the kitchen table. She worked for hours, and when she was finished, she showed me her creation. "My name is Emily, and I never imagined that my stepsister's perfect wedding would compete with my life for priority. At 25, I was diagnosed with a serious kidney condition, just as Amanda, my stepsister, was planning her dream wedding. The timing felt cruel, but it revealed exactly where I stood in my family's hierarchy. I wasn't always the overlooked one. Growing up, it was just Dad, Mom, and me in a modest but loving home. That changed when Mom passed away from breast cancer when I was 12. Her loss left a void in our lives. 6 months later, Dad met Sarah at a grief support group. She had a daughter, Amanda, 2 years younger than me. Within a year, we became a blended family that seemed straight out of a Hallmark movie, on the surface at least. At first, everything felt promising. Sarah was kind, albeit a bit reserved, and Amanda and I coexisted peacefully. We shared clothes, studied together, and played the part of the happy family. Dad looked happy again, which was all I cared about. But as the years went on, small cracks started to show. When Amanda needed braces, she got the best invisible ones. When I needed them a year later, money was suddenly tight, and I got metal braces. For her 16th birthday, Amanda received a car. I got driving lessons and a nudge to start saving up. These little discrepancies added up. but I convinced myself I was being too sensitive. Sarah was Amanda's mother, after all, and Dad, I figured, was just trying to keep the peace. I worked hard to compensate, earning scholarships and juggling part-time jobs to put myself through school. By the time I graduated and started working at a marketing firm, Amanda was still living at home, finding herself and working part-time at a boutique. I told myself that wasn't my business until the headaches started. At first, I dismissed them as stress from staring at a screen all day, but they got worse, accompanied by swelling, dizziness, and fatigue. One morning, I barely recognized myself in the mirror. My face was so bloated it felt foreign. A doctor's visit confirmed my fears: chronic kidney disease. It would worsen without immediate surgery, followed by dialysis and eventually a transplant. The cost? $85,000 after insurance. I didn't know where to turn. My savings were modest, and my insurance barely scratched the surface. Desperate, I brought it up at our next family dinner, where Amanda was already in full wedding planning mode. She showed off her massive ring while Sarah beamed with pride. When dessert came, I finally spoke. My voice trembled as I explained my condition, the surgery I needed, and the staggering cost. I asked for help, knowing it was a lot but hoping my family would rally around me. Dad looked troubled. Sarah pursed her lips, and Amanda avoided my gaze. "That's a lot of money," Dad finally said, glancing at Sarah. "We've already committed to Amanda's wedding," Sarah added. "The deposits alone are nearly $50,000. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. "I'm not asking for all of it," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Just anything you can manage. I'll take loans for the rest." Dad shifted uncomfortably. "Maybe after the wedding we can reassess." I blinked, stunned. "The surgery can't wait. The doctors say 6 weeks max." Amanda finally looked at me, her face pinched with irritation. "You're being selfish, Emily. This is my wedding, my special day. You can't expect us to ruin it because of your health issues." Her words stung, but Sarah's cut deeper. "Amanda's right. You're young and strong. You can handle being sick a little longer. This wedding is a once-in-a-lifetime event." I turned to Dad, silently pleading with him to step in, to defend me. He stared at his plate, pushing a crumb of pie around with his fork. "I see," I said quietly, rising from the table. The legs of my chair scraped loudly against the floor. "Thanks for making your priorities clear." "Emily, don't be dramatic," Sarah called as I grabbed my bag. "We're just being practical." I didn't respond. I closed the door behind me and sat in my car, staring at the house where laughter and wedding chatter continued as though nothing had happened. 3 months later, I had scraped together enough for the surgery, loans, credit cards, and sheer determination. My recovery was slow, and no one visited me in the hospital. Amanda sent a single text asking if I'd still fit into my bridesmaid dress after dialysis-related swelling. Life moved on. I returned to work, drowning in medical bills while juggling my job and dialysis. My family dinners became wedding planning sessions I no longer attended. Through it all, I wondered if Mom would have let this happen. Would she have allowed her daughter to struggle for survival while her husband funded another child's extravagant wedding? I thought the worst was behind me, but life wasn't done delivering its twists. One unexpected turn would force everyone, Amanda, Sarah, and even Dad, to confront the consequences of their choices. And this time, it wouldn't be me fighting alone. The call came on a Tuesday evening, just as I was getting ready for my dialysis session. My phone lit up with Dad's number, the first time he'd called in months. "Emily," he said, his voice trembling. "We need to talk. Can you come over?" I almost laughed. After months of silence, after choosing Amanda's wedding over my health, now they wanted to talk. "I'm about to start dialysis," I replied coldly. "Whatever it is can wait." "Sarah's sick," he blurted. "Her kidneys are failing. She needs a transplant." The irony hit me like a punch to the gut. Of all the possible health problems, it had to be kidney failure. I sat in silence, the only sound in the room the steady hum of my dialysis machine. Dad's voice continued, but it felt distant. "None of us are matches," he said, his voice breaking. "Not me, not Amanda. We've all been tested. The doctors say her blood type is rare, and the waiting list. They don't know if she has much time." I knew what was coming next. The storm was building. Would you get tested? To see if you're a match?" 3 months of silence. 3 months of fighting medical bills, of hospital visits, of watching them plan an extravagant wedding while I barely scraped by. And now they wanted my kidney. I'll think about it, I said, my voice flat, before hanging up. The next day, I went to the hospital, not to get tested, but for my regular checkup. Dr. Chen, who had been treating me since my diagnosis, noticed something was off. Your blood pressure is higher than usual, she said, scanning my charts. Is everything okay? Before I knew it, I was telling her everything about Sarah's diagnosis, Dad's call, the wedding, and how they'd abandoned me when I needed them most. Dr. Chen listened quietly, then said something that stopped me cold. Emily, did they tell you that kidney donors often can't donate if they have kidney disease themselves? I stared at her. What your condition is genetic, she explained gently. You're on the transplant list yourself. Even if you wanted to, you couldn't donate, not without seriously risking your own life. I felt a weight lift off me, but it was quickly replaced by guilt. Why did I feel relieved? Shouldn't I want to help Sarah? But Dr. Chen wasn't finished. What concerns me is that your family didn't know this. Didn't they ask about your condition? About your treatment? They hadn't. Not once in 3 months had they asked how I was doing. They'd been too consumed with wedding plans. That evening, I got another call, this time from Amanda. Why aren't you answering Dad's calls? She demanded. Don't you care that Mom is dying? Like you cared when I was dying. I snapped back. That's different. You're young. You can handle it. Mom needs help now. I can't donate, I said flatly. I have kidney disease too, remember? The one you all ignored while planning your perfect wedding? There was a long pause. Well, can't you at least get tested? Maybe they were wrong about your diagnosis. I'm on the transplant list myself, Amanda. I literally need a kidney too. Another pause. But Mom's condition is serious. So is mine. Has been for months. But you were all too busy picking out flower arrangements to notice. The line went dead. An hour later, my phone exploded with messages. Dad begging me to reconsider. Sarah writing long paragraphs about family obligations. Amanda alternating between guilt-tripping and threats. I blocked them all. A week later, I was leaving the dialysis center when I saw them, Dad, Sarah, and Amanda, standing by my car. Sarah looked awful, pale, swollen, just like I had months ago when I was at my worst. Emily, please, Dad started. We need to talk about this. There's nothing to talk about, I said, trying to move past them to my car. I literally cannot donate. End of story. But you haven't even tried. Amanda cried. You haven't even gotten tested. Because I'm already sick. I shouted, my patience snapping. I'm on dialysis 3 times a week. I'm on the transplant list. I have the same condition Sarah has. You're lying, Sarah said suddenly, her voice sharp. You're just saying that because you're angry about the wedding money. I stared at her, incredulous. You think I'm lying about being sick? Where do you think I just came from? I gestured toward the dialysis center behind me. Where have I been every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for the past 3 months? If you were really that sick, you would have told us, Dad said weakly. I did tell you. My voice cracked. I told you I needed surgery. I told you I was sick. You chose to spend the money on Amanda's wedding instead. You ignored my calls, my texts. You chose not to visit me in the hospital. You chose flowers and table settings over my life. That's not fair, Amanda protested. It was my wedding. And this was my life, I screamed. I could have died. I still could die. But none of you cared as long as Amanda got her perfect day. Security was approaching now, drawn by our shouting, but I wasn't done. You want to know the really funny part? I laughed bitterly, tears streaming down my face. If you had helped me with my surgery when I first asked, if you had spent even half of what you spent on that wedding on my medical care, I might have been healthy enough to donate now. But you didn't. You made your choice, and now we all have to live with it. I got in my car and drove away, leaving them standing there. In my rearview mirror, I saw Dad holding Sarah as she cried, while Amanda stood awkwardly, probably realizing for the first time that her perfect wedding might cost her mother's life. That night, alone in my apartment, I stared at old family photos. Photos from before Mom died, when Dad's love felt unconditional. Photos from the early days of our blended family when we really tried to make it work. Photos from Amanda's engagement party where I had smiled through my pain to keep the peace. My phone kept lighting up with messages from unknown numbers, extended family members, each telling me how selfish I was, how I was letting Sarah die, how a daughter should sacrifice everything for her mother. But Sarah wasn't my mother. My mom had died 13 years ago, and with her, the father who would have moved mountains for his daughter. The father who now couldn't even be bothered to visit me in the hospital. As I sat there, hooked up to my dialysis machine, I wondered what Mom would think of all this. Would she understand my refusal? Or would she be disappointed in me? Then I remembered something she had said near the end. Love shouldn't hurt, Emily. Not like this. When someone loves you, really loves you, they don't make you choose between their happiness and your survival. I looked at my reflection in the window, my tired eyes, my swollen face. I thought about the crushing debt, the lonely hospital stays, the missed work days, and Amanda's $100,000 wedding. Money that could have saved my life. They had made their choice. Now they had to live with it, just like I had to live with mine. But life wasn't done with us yet. 6 months later, the news came. I was at work when my cousin Rachel called. Sarah got a transplant. She's going to be okay. I felt my knees go weak. That's good. It wasn't Amanda. Rachel continued, her voice quieter. She backed out at the last minute, said she couldn't risk her health with the baby coming. I hadn't known Amanda was pregnant. Life goes on, I suppose. Dad donated his kidney, Rachel added softly. He's in recovery now. I sat at my desk processing it all. Dad had donated his kidney. The same dad who couldn't spare money for my surgery had given up an organ for his wife. I couldn't make sense of it. A week later, I got an email from Dad. He was home from the hospital, recovering well. Sarah was doing better. He wanted to talk. I agreed to meet him at a coffee shop, a neutral place. He looked older, worn down, still moving carefully, as though each step reminded him of what he'd given up. I understand now, he said, his voice thick with emotion. What it feels like to be in that hospital bed. To need help, and his words trailed off. And have no one there. I finished for him. He nodded, tears welling in his eyes. I failed you, Emily. I failed you so completely, and I don't know how to fix it. You can't, I said simply. Some things can't be fixed. 3 months later, Amanda gave birth to a baby girl. They named her Sarah, after her grandmother. I found out through Rachel. I wasn't invited to meet my niece. My condition stabilized with regular treatment. The doctors are optimistic about a transplant within the year. I'm doing okay. Sarah recovered fully. She and Dad sold their house to pay off Amanda's wedding debt and medical bills. They now live in a small apartment. Amanda and Mark moved to another state for his job. Then, last week, I received a package. Inside was Amanda's wedding album and a letter from Sarah. I look at these photos now, she wrote, and all I see is what we lost. $100,000 worth of flowers and food and decorations, and we lost something priceless. We lost you. I put the album in my closet without opening it. Some memories are better left unexplored. Dad still sends emails now and then. He tells me about his recovery, Sarah's progress, the apartment. He ends every email the same way. I love you. I'm sorry. I understand if you never forgive me. I haven't responded yet. Maybe someday I will. Yesterday, I passed a bridal shop. In the window was a massive wedding dress, probably worth thousands. I thought about Amanda in her perfect dress, about Sarah in her hospital gown, about Dad in his recovery bed. Sometimes the most expensive things in life aren't the ones with price tags. Sometimes it's the things we lose when we choose wrong. The relationships we break, the trust we shatter, the love we take for granted. I'm still on dialysis, still waiting for my transplant. But I'm not waiting alone anymore. My friends from work visit regularly. Rachel calls every day. I've built my own family, one that doesn't make me choose between their happiness and my survival. Mom was right. Love shouldn't hurt like that. The wedding album sits in my closet, gathering dust. Inside are pictures of the perfect day that cost us everything. Someday maybe I'll open it. Someday maybe I'll respond to Dad's emails. Someday maybe I'll meet my niece. But not today. Today, I'm focusing on healing, not just my kidneys, but my heart too. Because sometimes the most important choice isn't between life and death, but between holding on and letting go.